It's no secret that writing can be lonely work, but does it really have to be? Whether you're full-time, part-time, or just starting out, you'll get insights into the tricks, tips, and production habits of writers from every level of the biz. From best-selling authors to those launching their first novels, you're sure to be in the company of friends as we encourage great writers to divulge and share their secrets. This is the Great Writers Share podcast with your host, best-selling author, Daniel Willcocks.
Hello and welcome to the Great Writers Share podcast with me, Daniel Willcocks, where every week I invite a great writer onto the show and spend a good chunk of my day nattering about what makes them so great, all with the end goal of giving you practical advice, tips and strategies that you can use to skyrocket your career. Welcome to the show. It is the 19th of September today. I'm on a bit of a high. I finished a book and it is wonderfully sunny considering it is mid-September, and usually for England that kind of means that we're already on the downhill slope and things are starting to get colder in the morning. But like I say, I'm on a high. I've finished a book. I am getting everything ready to put a novella that I've been working on for the past few months up to pre-order. And it's exciting times because it is Halloween soon. And as many of you will kind of guess, for a horror writer or an author of dark fiction, Halloween is kind of is our holiday. It's our time of the year. So I've put together something quite special that I'm putting out to my beta reading team at the minute that I can't wait to get their feedback on. And yeah, we'll have something new to shout about in the next couple of weeks. But you're not here for me. You're here to listen to Jon Freeman, who is today's guest. Jon Freeman is a personal friend I've known for a number of years. He's someone that's doing very well in the film industry at the minute. He's worked on sort of big blockbuster movies as a runner, as a production assistant. He's doing his own writing. He's created some films for himself, which are currently going into festivals, and he's got some stuff coming up. So I thought we'd take a different tact this week, considering we've had a lot of novelists, a lot of short story writers. So it'd be good to get someone from a bit of a different medium, which also demonstrates that there's a universality between the creation of story and what people are trying to produce. When just, it doesn't matter what medium you're trying to tell story through, there's a general principle behind it, and that's something that we kind of tap into. We also discuss things about how he broke into the film industry. There's a lot of practical advice that Jon gives in how he got his first steps into working on film sets and how that kind of snowballed into everything else that he's been working on. He talks about practical tips on how to stand out. One of the very, very key things that we find out is while working on films, you need to give a good impression, otherwise you're never going to get invited back. So what are practical tips to make sure that happens to you? And also taking the leap from the production side of things to writing. Jon started out working as a runner and working as a production assistant on a few projects, and has sort of in the last couple of years swerved a bit more into the writing. And I think it's exciting that we get to dig a little bit deeper into how that looks and how he's approaching that, and what kind of things he's working on. But before we get to that, I'm going to do a little shout out as usual to the Patreon. So over at patreon.com/Great Writers Share, you can support the show for as little as $1 a month, which is less than a cup of coffee a month. And there's a crap load of bonuses over on the Patreon feed. So you get access to episodes early. You can get to ask any of our guests questions. We've got our monthly giveaway, which I'll get to in a second. But speaking of patron and wonderful people joining, coming on board, we do have 2 new patrons this week. So I'm going to give a big shout out to PT Hilton, and not butcher your name. Hey PT, how's it going? And Michael Anderley has been kind enough to jump in and also become a patron. So we've got Michael taking advantage of all the rewards, everything there is to offer. Hi Michael, if you're listening. One of our previous guests, for people who might be new to the show, I definitely recommend checking out his interview, episode 2. There's a lot of good advice in there as well about dominating indie fiction with your own publishing company. It's quite a lot going there. But before we get further, I'll have a little moment where I freeze, and there is another moment halfway through the interview which I'll let you find yourself, in which I do have a little bit of a mind melt, but there is a reason why, and you'll find out. But we'll give a quick mention to the monthly giveaway. So if you're a patron, it doesn't matter what level of patronage you support the show at, you are entered automatically into a competition to win a copy of Monica Lionel's Write Better Faster, How to Triple Your Writing Speed and Write More Every Day, which, as I mentioned previously, is a book that I've read, and there's some fantastic practical advice in there on how you can produce more and get those words on the page at a much more rapid pace. One more thing before we get into the interview, I do want to just do a little mention to anyone who is listening to the show. If you would be so kind, if you've got a spare minute or so and you're enjoying what we're producing and everything else that there is to offer, do go over to iTunes and leave us a review over there, because in leaving a review and sort of just showing an appreciation for the show, it helps boost us in the ranks, it helps more people access the show, and just heightens the visibility of everything else. So it means that I can then produce more and do more with this work, which will benefit everyone. So definitely worth jumping over to iTunes. It takes 2 seconds to do. Not fussed what star rating, just to be honest. I'm not going to push people to do 5 stars because I'm all about transparency, but it will definitely be massively beneficial, and I'd thank you forever. But right now, I'm not going to hold back anymore. We're going to jump straight into this very, very exciting and slightly different interview with the wonderful Mr. Jon Freeman.
Jon Freeman is a writer and filmmaker who has worked on a number of blockbuster film sets in a variety of roles. His credits include production assistant on the set of the adaptation of Adam Nevil's The Ritual and the thriller Welcome to the Curiosity. He has worked as a runner and an extra on a number of sets and has taxied A-listers like Billy Boyd and worked in close proximity with Danny DeVito and Michael Keaton while on the set of Disney's Dumbo. Jon is now fiercely working on the editing and production of his brand new feature, Whiskey Tears, and has had his work heard by thousands of listeners on the Other Stories podcast in collaboration with myself. Hello. Hi, Jon. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
That's all right. How are we doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Can't complain. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm quite excited to have you on because I'll set the scene just for people so we know where we're going with this interview. Me and Jon have been friends for a number of years. We met at university, and we both sort of been writing on and off in different proximities of each other, worked on a couple of projects together, which has been quite exciting. But I'm deeply interested a lot in your actual journey into film because you'll be the first filmmaker that I've actually had on the show.
Oh, fantastic. Well, hopefully don't disappoint.
Well, I hope so too. So I wanted to kind of kick off by basically, can you give a bit of a background about sort of your journey into filmmaking, when you began on that journey, and how you've kind of gotten to the point that you're at the minute?
Yeah, sure. So film was one of those things where when I was younger, I always had an interest in filmmaking and wanting to make movies, but I never really saw it as a career. So when I was kind of going through my A-levels and everything, I did media, but I also did other things like English and stuff to try and keep not a backup option, basically, because I didn't really think I would see it as a future job. But then the further I got into it, when I was at university, I did journalism, but I kept going back to, I was making documentaries at university, and I kept going back to it. And I just always found myself with a camera. And I was realizing more and more that I wanted to go into filmmaking, but I didn't really know where to start. So at first I was kind of taking just odd small jobs where I could at university, small bits of work experience. But I was really fortunate when I graduated that a close friend of mine's sister was working on an independent film called Fear of Water. And they called me up one day and were just like, we need a runner. Would you fancy coming on board for a day? And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. So I came on, and one day turned into 2 days, and then that just kept kind of multiplying. And eventually I was on there for a good couple of weeks and just managed to network and make a few contacts from there. And it happened very quickly. From there, I just kind of ended up on different short films, kind of low budget, British independent feature films. And for the first couple of years after uni, it was all just very manic, doing a lot of production assistant work. And it just kind of spiraled from there, really.
That's fantastic. I mean, from my perspective as well, it's been a bit of a journey watching you, because you've always been one of those people that you're always at stuff with friends, and we're always sort of like, hanging out. But then again, you disappear for weeks at a time and just end up on sets, and it seems to be quite a manic schedule to get into that kind of industry. How do you manage basically your finances around producing films, particularly in those early days when you'd be off for a couple of weeks at a time and then sort of with potentially nothing for a few months? How did you work through that?
So I think it's one of those things where you've got to be, I wouldn't say luck so much, but I was very fortunate in terms of when I first started, my family were very supportive and wanted to help me get going. And the kind of deal was, as long as you're working, because a lot of the first few jobs you do on a film set, more often than not, it'll just be for experience. You won't really be getting paid. They might cover your expenses, but that's about it. So my family were pretty much like, if you're working, even if you're not getting paid, there's kind of a roof over your head, you have food. So hopefully that would kind of give you enough time to get the ball rolling. So I kind of, as soon as I finished uni, I didn't really have much money. It was more just kind of working as hard as I could and being very grateful for the fact I didn't have to go out and pay rent. And then eventually, once I started to get paid work, it kind of that I think you've got to find a cutoff point where you don't need experience anymore. You're experienced enough that you can start asking for pay. Because sadly, in the film industry, there are a lot of people that will expect you to work for free, and what you don't realize is that you are capable of just turning around and going, sorry, I can't do that. And if you do say no to a job because you can't afford to work for free, that's perfectly acceptable. And I think that was something I struggled with at first, because it did feel like I had to keep doing these jobs for experience and kind of keep getting my name out there. But then once you kind of get the first paid job, it kind of sticks. And after that, you just kind of keep getting more and more paid work, and you start working with people who bring you on to paid jobs all the time, instead of like the smaller projects where it is more for experience. And then I managed to get another job, which wasn't connected to the film industry, but was very flexible with its hours. And they were also very understanding of the fact that I did freelance in film. So as long as I was booking off time in advance, I could book a nice amount of time off of work to go on to shoots for, like you said, for weeks at a time, and then kind of come back and have that job. So it was fortunate. It's a lot of work, and you have to really pick your battles with it. But if you're really passionate about it, you kind of find a way. If you just keep looking, you'll be able to get somewhere with it.
Absolutely. I definitely believe that 100%. Going back to the beginning of your journey. So you said you're at uni, you were sort of making documentaries, you were sort of looking for work here and there that might be connected to the film industry. How did you approach finding that initial work? Have you got any sort of particular sites or sources that might be good for people who are thinking of getting into the industry to potentially look at to find some stuff?
So at first it was more through university lecturers. While I was at uni, I was talking to different lecturers and seeing if they knew of any work coming up that was connected. And because I was in journalism, most of the work was for work experience on documentaries, or there was even a job, I think, to help film like the Superbike Championships. So it wasn't connected to film specifically, but it was still within that world. But as I think lately, the more I've noticed, Facebook is very useful. There's lots of different groups on Facebook for people to use. Like there's London Film Group. I can't remember the names of them off the top of my head, but there's a lot of different film groups on Facebook. And every day someone's posting a different job for different kinds of specialists. Production assistants are very high in demand on them. And they're not just for jobs. It's really good to go to for advice as well. You see people uploading their CVs all the time, just asking for feedback for different freelancers in the industry. And you'll find that people are just taking time out of their days to really sit and help just a complete stranger, because I think they can relate because they've been in the same position. And so I found that that was something that Facebook was very useful for. And there are different websites as well. So another way of helping bring money in and keeping me on set was to do extra work. And there were websites like Casting Collective. They were very useful. You send them, they only ask for 4 or 5 photos and just a few details about you, kind of like your measurements and everything like that. And if you have any particular skills, any sports you're good at. And then they will just email you on a regular basis saying, hey, this job's coming up. Would you be interested? And it might not be what you want to do in the industry, but it keeps you on set. And with extra work, I found that it puts you on higher budget sets. So more often than not, you're working at a very high level. So you get to see all these big time directors and like camera teams, crews, actors, all working at kind of the top level. And you can learn so much just by being there and observing. So as well as getting paid, which is really handy, you can learn so much about it as well.
Yeah, that's something that I've kind of admired about your journey, is the fact that it's never seemed to be a skyrocket traditional route, just step by step. It's very, very much a case of you have taken opportunities as they've come, even if they're not quite how they've wanted to present themselves to you, and then just made the best out of those situations and kind of persevered. I mean, was that hard at points? Have you ever had points where you felt like throwing in the towel and just going in for a regular job?
A few times, yeah. It's because, like you said, it's not very clear cut, and sometimes it's hard to tell if you are making progress. But then what I found with that is if you just kind of hold on and you keep trying, and even if, like I said, even if you're going off at a bit of an angle where you're not quite hoping to be, if you're working in a different department or something, you'd be amazed how it can loop back round. So patience is definitely key, and like even when you are feeling low, if you just keep persevering, it's very hard to sit here and say it, because there have been a few times where I've genuinely thought, is this going to be plausible as a career? And then more often than not, something will just happen. If you keep going through, you end up talking to people, and then you kind of reignite your passion and you start talking to people who are in a similar similar place to you. And then you start bouncing off of each other. And I find that kind of builds. and then you suddenly just find yourself in a completely different situation, and you've ended up networking with people, and someone will call you. More often than not, I'll be kind of planning my next film and thinking, okay, how am I going to do this or that? And then as I'm thinking, I haven't been on set for a while, I'll just get a phone call and be like, oh, hey, can you come and work on this for a few days? And people do remember you. So if you are working hard, even if you're not the best at the job, as long as you're willing to put the time in, you're on time, and they can see you're really dedicated, people will remember you and keep you going. So it's definitely a field where you need to be willing to collaborate and really work with others.
Absolutely. I think, so one of the things that, I mean, on this show itself, we've had a lot of novel writers, we've had a lot of short story writers, people that are sort of doing a lot of traditional prose writing. And I think that it's a lesson that can be transferred to everyone, in that there's always going to be moments in which you potentially want to let go and it doesn't seem worth it because all the effort's coming up with no reward. But I think the thing that I've learned from a lot of the people that have been on here, and just people from around my own journey as well, yourself obviously included, like you just said, is that if you do hold on that little bit longer and remember why you got involved in the first place, then that's the sticking factor that will keep you going. And that's the hardest but the most effective way to do it, in my opinion, is just to keep going past the moments when you want to quit and just hold on that little bit longer to actually just wait for that next opportunity to finally present itself to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, my first short film is, we've spoken about in the past plenty of times. I had a lot of audio trouble in the post-production, and it took a lot longer to get made than I would like to admit. But at the same time, it was really frustrating. And there were some times where I was like, oh, is this actually ever going to be complete? Because the audio was so bad. We had to do a lot of ADR work, a lot of rebuilding. There was money, just like having to pour more and more money into it to try and get it fixed. And it was quite scary for a while, where I was thinking to myself, is this actually going to be something I can achieve? Is this something I can complete? And like I said, I'm very fortunate in the fact that I have lots of friends and family who are very supportive. And every time I was kind of getting down, there would be someone there to kind of give me a kick and be like, don't give up. You've got so far with it. You can see it through. And and they're right. If you do persevere, you'll find a way to make it work. And you keep, like I said, this is where talking to people, it becomes so useful as well. Because when I was stuck and I really didn't know how to progress, how to fix the audio troubles I was having, I would go online and I would just chat to people on Facebook in these sound production and sound mixer groups. And you just find complete strangers are so willing to kind of just have a 10-15 minute chat with you and just try and walk you through some things, or introduce you to contacts who might be able to fix your problems. And it really it does make you realize that if you do just stick at it and work hard, you can achieve your goal. So you've just got to keep persevering, and you will find a way. Even if you can't see it at the time, you'll just constantly keep learning and learning until eventually you work out, oh, okay, so this is how I'm going to do it. And then and everyone does it in their own time. I think that's something that's very important to remember as well. Just because someone else might have made a film in a few months and yours took a couple of years, it doesn't matter. As long as you're still working towards that goal, that's the important thing.
How did you find that initial network in the first place? Because, I mean, completely from my perspective, and I might be attributing this wrong, is that particularly around the time I was at university and I'm trying to think, was I a year above you, or were we in the same year?
I think we were in the same year. Yeah, we had graduation at the same time, yeah.
Yes, we did, yeah. But like you said earlier, there's something about film that seems to be far off, unreachable, quite a bit of a fantasy potentially for people like myself who wasn't involved in that sort of circle of people. So when you first were at uni and you were committing yourself to, this is what I want to start looking into doing, how did you build that initial network? Because like you say, the networks and the communities you surround yourself are incredibly important to keeping you going and feeding those ideas and keeping you inspired. But I can imagine that in the beginning it wasn't always that way. No,
and I think sometimes you find answers where you don't expect to. When I decided that was what I wanted to do, that when people were talking about careers, and because at the end of uni, everyone's kind of starting to make their plans about what they're going to go on to do and everything. I was just talking to random people and they were like, oh, what's your plan? I was like, I'm not really sure, but I know I want to do this. And I would just keep saying that I wanted to work in film and I wanted to write and I wanted to direct and get behind the camera. And again, it was through a friend's sister. They'd obviously heard me saying this, and that was what made them think of me when they were on a film shoot and they needed extra production assistants. So I got the call then. So I think if it was something I was passionate about, and because I talked about it a lot with just lots of different people will take notice. So when I was talking to them, I probably wasn't thinking at the time, oh, this might get me a job or this might be helpful in the future. I was just kind of talking about it, and that really opened the door to this whole kind of world. where I met so many people on that set that have called me up later on going, oh, hi, we're working on this. Can you come and help for a few days? And then you meet more people when you go on to the next set. And then the networking just kind of snowballs from there. And that's why I was saying it's really important, I think, that if someone does give you that opportunity, even if it's not a paid job at first, to when you get there, just make sure you're on time. I normally get to set always about half an hour early, just in case someone needs help setting up. And I always try to be one of the last ones to leave. And just in case like one department is stuck trying to clear something up or anything, if you can help out, people will really take notice of that. And it goes a long way. And that's the kind of thing that I really think is important and people will notice you for and want to work with you again.
Have you got any other tips for showing your hard work on set? So obviously, like you say, you're there early, you stay longer than necessary, you kind of get stuck in. Have you got any other specific tips that might help people who are potentially working their way onto their first set and they're looking to make a good impression?
I would say be observant of the crew and other people around you, because if you've got a bit of time, because sometimes more one department will be a lot busier than another. If you're not doing too much in your department, don't just think, oh, I've got a break. You go up and help. If the camera team need help doing something, setting something up, if they're looking a bit stressed, you maybe just ask, oh, is there something I could do to help? Same with the lighting team. I found more often than not lighting teams, especially on lower productions, normally need quite a bit of help because it's a hard job. So even if it's just moving some equipment around, and it doesn't feel like you're doing much, but you really are helping them and really speeding up the process. So just kind of be observant and see what's going on around you. And if there is a department you can help, I would say just kind of quickly ask someone there if they need a hand. If they say no, then kind of drop it. But if they do need a hand, just really get stuck in and make sure that they're kind of ready to go. And then if you can eventually kind of work your way around the departments, people will realize you're quite dependable and that you're willing to help. And it does, like I said, it really does go a long way. And they're the kind of people I think that get remembered.
I think that's such a good life lesson in general, no matter what you're doing, to try and always help that extra little bit and think of it a lot like you're not trying to help yourself, but you are trying to help other people, because that is how you leave that everlasting impression. Yeah.
And I mean, at the end of the day, you are a team, especially if you're on a set where you have to live with everyone. You almost become like a family. So you do want to be there for them. And also, if they succeed, you succeed, because if at the end of the day, like I said, if you're helping the lighting team and helping get that lighting just perfect for the shot, like that's going to make you look good. And you might be surprised. There might be a field you hadn't really thought about working in, but if you help out the team, you suddenly take a bit of an interest, you've made a contact with someone who can help you get into that field. So and I mean, I've made some really good friends, and I get dragged into the lighting department quite often just to help out as an assistant. And it's not something I ever saw myself doing or plan to do, but it's really interesting. I've learned so much just from kind of offering to help and then kind of getting stuck in with it. There've been about 3 or 4 films now where I've ended up going from production assistant to lighting assistant for the entire shoot, just because they've needed the extra hands just to move stuff around. And I've learned so much about the lighting aspect of films from that alone.
You're going to have to teach me at some point. I had to play with lighting for one of my previous jobs doing photo shoots, and it is fucking hard.
Yeah, it's definitely not. You've got to. There's so much
difficult
respect for those people.
I think it's so when you look at the idea of just how people like shots, and you just think, oh yeah, it's a shot that's lit. There's so much work to prevent shadows, to make sure it's consistent. It's a whole science that I don't think I'll ever understand. But you'll have to give me some tips at some point.
I will do my best. But it's one of those feels. It's like sound. If the audience notices it, you failed. So in a way, if you go through a whole film not really paying attention to the lighting, that means they're doing their job right. Because that's what you want. You don't want people to be like, oh, the lighting's amazing. You want it to feel so natural that they don't even notice. And so it just matches, if that makes sense. So it's one of those fields where I feel like it is a bit underrated, because if they've done their job properly, it's meant to keep you in the moment, not take you out of it.
The silent assassins.
Yes, yeah.
Talk us through a day on set. So obviously there's not going to be, with film, there's never going to be a typical day on set, but talk us through sort of a 24-hour period on the set of the project you've been on.
Okay, so normally I'll probably go for like a British independent film. I feel that's probably the best way. You kind of, like I said, I always try to get there a bit early just in case. And first of all, when you get there, there's normally breakfast on set, which is always really nice. So you get there, have a bit of food, and then start setting up. So you get the camera equipment ready, get the lighting equipment ready, make sure the actors are all in place. But that's not necessarily your job. You're just kind of, if you're a production assistant, you will just be kind of bouncing around, helping out where you can. So you normally have a bit of time in the morning to set up and get ready for the first shot of the day. And then the first AD will obviously have a plan on them, a whole schedule of what you're doing for the day. And you'll just, spend the morning going through shot from shot. So you normally, as soon as you've finished one shot, you have to allow for a bit of time for everyone to get in position for the next shot, get all the camera equipment set back up, all the lighting equipment set up. And then normally get to lunch anywhere between 12 and like 2 o'clock. And then sometimes if you're really busy on set, they might do something called a rolling lunch, which is basically where you're still working, but kind of eating on the go. Luckily that doesn't happen too often because that can be a bit of a pain. And then, just kind of, it's more of the same in the afternoon, really, just kind of moving from shot to shot throughout the afternoon until you get to near the end of the day, and then wrap for the day and make sure everyone, when you're done at the end of the day, it's always handy just to stick around and help all the every team make sure they've got everything packed away properly and correctly, and then once everything's looking like it's wound down, you can just get in the car and head home.
Were you always this helpful?
Probably not, no. If my mum's listening to this, it's probably not going to come across very well. She'll wonder where I was all this time when I was a kid, leaving the house a mess and everything.
So what is it specifically film that has now put you into sort of state of mind, or is this something that you've now adopted more widely in life?
I would say so, yeah. I think working on films, I think it's because it's something I really enjoy and I'm very passionate about. And I can't explain it, but when I'm on a film set, it puts me in such a better frame of mind to tackle anything. I'll be a lot more productive and just in a much better place. But I think it makes you realize as well that everybody else has something to do. And if you can do a little bit to help someone throughout the day, then why not, really? Like if it's not going to affect your day by just spending an extra few minutes helping someone else, then yeah.
Fantastic. Now, one thing that, particularly this is the Great Writers Share podcast, and we haven't really spoken that much about writing. So I did want to dive a little bit into some of the stuff that you've written, because you have been working on films. You've been writing scripts for yourself. Like you mentioned earlier, you've got a film, Blood on the Road, which you're currently doing some stuff with. If a side note, if I suddenly yelp out in surprise, it's because there's a daddy longlegs in this room that suddenly decided to attack me. But I'll be professional and I'll move past it and hope it doesn't land in my drink. So, I mean, Blood on the Road, obviously we've written some stuff together. When did you sort of decide to get into the writing side of things? And yeah, just start with that point. When did you decide to get more into the writing side of things as opposed to some of the production stuff?
So it would have been about a year or two into freelancing. I worked on a short film called The Alpha Invention, which was the one with Billy Boyd. And it was directed by a guy called Mark Towers. He's a really nice guy. And I was fortunate enough he needed a lift somewhere on one of the days. We had to go into town to get something. And he, like I said, he was a really nice guy. And he's got chatting to me and asking what I wanted to do. And he's very interested in kind of my future. And when I said to him, I was like, I'd love to write and direct. I don't really know where to begin. And he was just like, well, you've got to do it yourself. He was like, no one's going to put that job in front of you. If you want to be a writer and you want to direct, you're going to really have to just get out there on your own and make it happen. It's not a job where you kind of just apply for and you get it. No, you have to really make it from scratch. Think of an idea and just kind of hammer it down on paper and keep going at it until you've got a script you're happy with, and then go and find a producer. And he was, very honest about the whole thing. And it was really nice to hear someone else kind of saying that, because it was basically just saying, yeah, if you want this, go and get it. Don't wait for someone to give it to you, because that's not going to happen. You have to go and do it yourself. And that was when so I got off that film set. It was only a small shoot. It was about 3 or 4 day shoot. And I contacted a good friend of mine who he'd been writing scripts for ever since he was a kid. It was something he always loved doing. So as a hobby, he was just writing stories and scripts. And I basically said to him, I want to make a short film. I've never written a script before. Can you help me? Do you want to co-write one? I have an idea. And he was really up for it. So what we'd do is we'd meet up once a week and we'd get this story down. It was a drama about basically a police crisis negotiator talking someone down off of a bridge. And we meet up once a week and just kind of go over the story over and over. And then someone else I knew was interested in producing. So I contacted them and was like, hi, I'm writing a short film. Would it be something you'd be interested in producing for us? And they were really interested as well. So we would meet with them and go over the script again. If there was anything they weren't too keen on or any tweaks they wanted made, we'd all kind of have a big discussion and start working on getting a script that we were all happy with. And then we went to another producer, not to work on it, but just for advice. and they were giving us advice on what kind of budget we were looking at, and basically how we'd want to maybe change some things, and roughly how much time we need to film this, and what roughly the size of a crew, cost for insurance, location, everything like that, which is really helpful. And then we started to lock down actors, and pre-production went very smoothly. And then when we got to the shoot itself, again, that went very smoothly. I couldn't have asked for a better crew. Everyone was just so on the ball, really passionate about what they were doing, and the actors were fantastic. They knew their lines. They delivered great performances. And then sadly, it was in post-production where we experienced issues. But before that, it literally, I felt like I was on top of the world, because everything was just going so smoothly, and everyone was just so willing to get stuck in and really kind of give it their all, put 110% in. And now I have got a product that I'm really happy with. Like I said, there were a few moments in post-production where it was a bit touch and go, but like everyone just, and so many people willing to help. The actors were willing to come back to re-record lines. And yeah, so it all kind of started from that one job where I met Mark, and he really helped push me into just kind of getting off this routine I was in of doing production assistant work and just get stuck in doing what I really wanted to do.
One thing I always love about hearing people's stories is there always seems to be a figure that acts as some kind of unwilling mentor, even if, well, it's kind of defining the unwilling, but even if they never sort of see themselves in that position. I mean, would you class Mark as a mentor of sorts to yourself in your writing?
He's definitely an inspiration. Yeah, if I hadn't had a chance to have a conversation with him and see him at work, I don't know if I would have made a film so quickly. I know it's something I eventually would have got around to doing, but I think I really needed someone to tell me that I have to do it. Like, it's something you really got to go out there and do on your own, instead of just, because I think I was really enjoying being a production assistant, and I hadn't thought too much about how to progress and get further into the industry. And I think it was really good to have someone there who was kind of like, what do you want to do? Okay, if that's what you want to do, then you just got to go out there and make it happen, because it's not going to come to you. You've got to go to it. And it was a bit of a wake up call. And he was very positive and encouraging. And yeah, I definitely say that he helped speed that process up.
You've never seemed to shy away from taking advice, from putting your ego to the side, or, I mean, you said it yourself, you started writing and you went straight into a collaboration with another writer. You found producers. You straight away snowballed into this world of bringing other people into your ideas and kind of working together. How have you found collaboration in general? And was that somewhere that you always thought you'd go from the start, or did at any point did you see yourself sort of writing solo and then have to convert into collaboration?
To be honest, it's not something I gave a lot of thought to, but I would honestly, from everything I've done now, I think collaboration is key to success, because if you're ever unsure of anything, if you're working with someone else, they might have the answers, or it's someone you can confide in and work them out together. And I always believe that if you're working on an idea, it's always better to have two heads working at it than one. So, and if there's someone else who had, for example, when I went to my friend Kieran, who helped me write Blood on the Road, I knew for a fact that if I tried to sit there and write a script on my own, it wasn't going to happen. It would just be awful. Whereas I knew he knew exactly what he was talking about, and he was very keen, and he was very willing to listen to what I had to say as well. So we both kind of went in there with the same attitude of, we can help each other out. Even though he taught me how to write a script completely, he would help me with my ideas, and we could work together and kind of tweak the ideas in something we were both really proud of. And even on my next film that I've just finished filming, Whiskey Tears, I co-wrote that with the lead actor, one of the lead actors. And again, we both just sat there. He had the idea, and he came to me basically asking for the same kind of advice of, could you help me write a script? And both of us just sat down together and we just talked through everything. And I think if you've got someone there to bounce ideas off of, you can get a much stronger story, because if there's something you write down, you might not realize that it doesn't quite work, or that it's something missing. Whereas if you've got someone else there to sit there with you, goes, that doesn't quite work, but maybe if we do this, and then you can also be like, oh, that's great. And then we can add this, and then you can add that. And it just like really expands into a much stronger product.
This really is going to turn into the collaboration podcast, because every guest that I've spoken to so far has in some way used collaboration to leverage what they do. And I think it is, I mean, absolutely everything you just said. And I think it's a powerful thing to leverage someone else's creativity, and not only for the better for the story, but also to remove the obstacles that might be fairly unseen. And I mean, I could say from personal experience, obviously we've worked together on a couple of stories for the other stories, and you're very, very easy to work with, which is one of the things I like. You put your ego aside, and you kind of give and take fair criticism, and it's quite a seamless process. I mean, have you always been easy to work with, or is it something that, again, you've sort of learned over time?
Well, that's very kind of you to say. Thank you. I don't know. I'd hope I've been easy to work with. I try not to, like you said, I don't think letting ego get in the way is going to benefit anybody. It's one of those things that's always confused me, is if someone has a good idea, I don't know why you'd turn away from it. If someone's trying to help, if they're coming up to you with an idea, they're obviously trying to help. Even if their idea isn't necessarily good or what you're wanting to hear, it could be the best thing ever to happen to your script or to your story. So I don't know why people would want to shy away from that. To me, it's always welcome to hear someone's opinion, because they might say something that makes your product 10 times better. And for example, like working with you on the other stories, that's been really fascinating to me, because it's a different writing format completely. And I feel like I learned so much from doing that I can also translate parts of that into script writing. So I feel like every time I collaborate with someone, you can take away something new from it every time. And that's really important. I feel like it makes me a better writer. It helps when it comes to directing as well. I feel like it will make me a better director and a better filmmaker in general.
What are the key things you've taken away from in regards to the differences between writing for screen and writing short stories?
So writing short stories, I think the thing you have to remember is you have to be a bit more descriptive. With a script, you can be very descriptive, but at the end of the day, if you're writing and directing your own script, you don't have to worry too much about the description, because you can see it in your head. So when actors need to know what to wear, you can just tell people, right, I want the actors in this costume, this is what I want the location to look like. Whereas when you're writing for something like the other stories, you don't have that luxury. So you have to find a captivating way of writing in the description of the background of the scene, setting the scene. What does the character look like? What's the character wearing? Whereas in a script, you do include that stuff, but it's not the most important part. Whereas with something like the other stories, I find you have to really find a creative way of giving someone a very clear visual image in their mind of what they're listening to. Because with a film, you've already done that for them by putting it on the screen. But with the other stories, that obviously, because it's all audio based, you really have to find a way to make them see a very clear image in their head of what you're trying to get across.
And have you used any other tools or resources to help learn the writing process, apart from, I know you said earlier that Kieran sort of helped you get into the frame of writing scripts. Have you used any other tools or resources to kind of expand your knowledge and grow?
So whenever I go to, funny one to go to is a Comic-Con. There's someone there who sells film scripts, and every time I go, I always make a point of buying 2 or 3 different film scripts from either TV shows or films. And what I'll do is when I get home, I'll read them and study the different writing styles. Because one thing I'm noticing is every script is so different, even in terms of layout. It doesn't appear to be a very strict format. So it's just really fascinating to read through these scripts and see how different writers try to get across what they're trying to do. I'd also recommend going on weekend, even if it's just for 2 or 3 days, going on weekend courses for writing and directing is very useful. You get to meet other people who are at the same level as you, and you can, again, it's more people to collaborate with, it's networking. And then the lecturers taking the class have normally, more often than not, got a lot of experience in that field, and they will really be able to help you. If you've got something you want to show them, like a script or a film, they will give you very constructive feedback. And it's always just, things like that. It can be a bit daunting sometimes, but it's definitely worth it. I went to one a while ago, and I took Blood on the Road with me before the audio had been fixed. And someone who went up before me, their film, I felt quite sorry for them, because their film was a really clever idea, but where it was their first attempt, it was a bit jumbled, and the edit didn't flow quite very smoothly. And then the guy taking it was like, "Who's next?" And I was like, "Oh God, it's me. He's going to absolutely destroy my film." And I was trying to avoid showing it, and he was like, honestly, just put it on. We're all in the same boat. There's nothing to worry about. So I put it on. I was just sitting there the whole time, kind of hiding, tucking under my seat. And he was really complimentary, actually, in the end. And he gave a lot of useful feedback, very informative, and was kind of telling me, like, some things I didn't even realize I had done. He was very complimentary of saying, "Oh, for a drama, this works really well." Because, for example, my opening shot was just one long shot. And he was saying that works really well for a drama. So you made a really good choice doing that. And that wasn't necessarily going through my mind when I filmed it. It was just something that felt right at the time. So again, like it's just learning all these small things and hearing other people talking about it. It's also a really nice confidence boost when you take it somewhere and a stranger goes, oh yeah, that's great. When you've done this, that works really well. And I think it really helps you kind of ease into it.
Absolutely. What's next for you? I mean, at the minute you're working on a couple of different projects. Where is Jon Freeman heading?
I'm still unsure. I'm in the in the long run, still aiming for that director writer full-time position. But I'm trying to kind of keep myself as busy as I can. And what I'm doing now is more of my own projects. So I've got 2 films. I've got Blood on the Road going into film festivals, and Whiskey Tears is in post-production at the moment. I'm just trying to keep myself writing. So I'm helping, written a couple of stories for the other stories. And I'm actually working on a small indie game at the moment with some friends, and they're letting me to kind of take the creative side. So I'm helping write all the characters and the story. And it's a very different style of writing, but it's still keeping me in that loop of building worlds and making these stories. So I'm just trying to basically keep working as much as I can in the kind of on the creative side, which I really love doing. And if something sticks soon, great. If not, I'll just keep making stuff until I eventually get there. That's the plan.
I love it. I've got one more question from myself before we jump into questions from patrons, which is normally a bit of a stumper for people, but we'll see how you do with it, which is, why do you write?
I think, to be honest, I love making, I don't know about you, but like when I was a kid at school, this probably isn't going to reflect well on me. It explains a lot. I used to just sit in class, and if I wasn't working, I was just daydreaming, imagining different stories in my head, making up characters and making up all these different really random, absurd plots. And I think that just translated. I just really used to immerse myself in these daydreams and these worlds I was building. And I think as I got older, that kind of translated from my mind onto paper, and then from paper to film.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean that's beautiful. All right, into Patreon questions. So just for people who might be new to the show, we've got a group of people over at patreon.com/greatwritersshare, and as part of supporting the show, they can submit questions to our guests. And this week we've got Harley Christensen, who's gone mental with a few different questions to throw your way. So the first one is, what is your top productivity tip or the go-to habit that keeps you on track?
That's a tough one. I think it is natural to lose motivation sometimes, and especially if you're doing something over a long period of time. I think that's where sometimes it is quite good to have that pressure. For me, I feel if I'm not doing my work there, and I could be, I think it's important to find a good balance between relaxing and working. So you don't want to be working 24/7, but you need to make sure you're still keeping it up. So for me, normally, that's a really tough question. I think that I'll get to a point where if I feel like I'm relaxing a bit too much, I'm quite good at giving myself that mental kick to get back to it. So normally it's kind of a feeling of I kind of get that thought in my head of if I want to make it, if I want to get somewhere, then I better get started. I can't keep sitting around. I've got to get on it and get writing this script or make that call, make that email. If that's the only way I'm going to succeed, so why not do it?
And speaking on both our behalves, I know that when we work together, we both work well with arbitrary deadlines. So that there might not necessarily be a date that something is due, but we'll both kind of go, this Friday? Yeah, this Friday, we'll do it for then. And then that kind of kicks us both up the arse and makes it happen.
Yes, yeah. And I think sometimes you have to accept the fact that there might be something that delays it that's out of your control. And that doesn't mean that there's necessarily anything bad. Sometimes life does just get in the way. I think that's another very good motivator, is telling someone a deadline in your head. So if you go to a family member or a friend, oh yeah, I'm going to have that script done by the beginning of the month. And it gets to the beginning of the month and they're kind of chasing you off a bit oh, how's your script going? And then in your head, you're like, oh crap, I've only done 5 pages. I really should get on with that. I find that's a good motivator because it's almost like you see someone believing in you and they're excited to see what you're doing. And if you're not doing it, then you're kind of letting them down as well. But that could just be me.
No, I'm exactly the same. Definitely all about accountability. Harley also asks, what is your favorite place to write?
Ooh, that is a very good question. I think it depends on what I'm writing. If I'm writing something that's like a drama and it's maybe a fairly kind of emotional, tough piece to write, I quite like being probably on my own in my room and just sitting at my desk typing away. But if I'm trying to do something more upbeat and refreshing, I quite like being outside.
Okay, that's fair.
Especially on like a nice sunny day. If you're writing something more positive and upbeat, I feel like the setting you sit yourself in to write is very vital to kind of get the mood right as you're trying to make that story happen.
Additional question from me then. How, because this is a problem that I have, because I love the idea of writing outside and I've done it a few times. How do you deal with screen glare from the sun?
If I'm writing outside, normally it'll actually be with pen and pad, and then I'll type that up onto my computer when I get back in.
How romantic.
I know, right? Classic, going old school.
Question 3 from Harley. How do you reward yourself when you've completed a project? Now, I know that I am absolutely shit at this, so I'm again interested in your answer.
That is something I'm probably the same as you. I struggle to, because I almost feel like it's not finished. So when it's kind of almost like the next step. You get a kind of sigh of relief of, okay, I've written a script. Now I need to go over it with the producer to get a production date in mind. And then after you've filmed it, it's like, okay, now I've got to meet up with the editor and get the editor on board and get work cracking on that. And it feels like there's always something that can be added. But I think it's more of a, like, from a mental perspective, you can kind of give yourself a pat on the back each time you've hit one of those markers, even though it's not technically finished. You can just say to yourself, yeah, I'm pushing forward with this and I'm making progress and I'm getting it done. And I find that's normally quite a good motivational reward in itself.
Yeah, it is very hard. I mean, speaking from my own personal experience, I generally cannot remember the last time I actually celebrated completing something or finishing something, because there's always that pressure to move on to the next thing and just to keep going. And I don't know if you find that this is the same, but with writing being quite a solo venture, there's not really anyone around you to instantly share in that success. So when I was in my office job, you'd wrap up an event or you were doing something and everyone would sort of come together, raise a glass, not get drunk because you're at work. But there'd be there'd be a collective end. Whereas when you're by yourself, it's very much a case of I'll finish and just go, okay, next, which might not be the healthiest thing to do.
No, I think I do think it's important to give yourself that acknowledgement of I have done, like, it's a big deal, because there are a lot of people that will start a project and there will always be something that stops them from finishing. So if you are able to see something through from beginning to end, like, you do need to be aware of that's an impressive feat, and that is a big deal because not everyone can do that. So if you are able to, and like you said, I know sometimes it's hard when there's not other people around to kind of include in that celebration. I think you need to find a way to treat yourself, whether it's kind of going out to your like, just even if it's just meeting up with some friends for the night, like, you can just even if it is just a catch up, you can kind of see it as a little reward to yourself that, yeah, I deserve this, I've worked hard. Or like just doing something that makes you happy. I guess making time for things that make you happy as a reward, I think is a good way of doing it.
I know the answer to this, but I think it's worth sharing from your perspective. What did you do when you finished Blood on the Road?
So this is the thing. Blood on the Road technically isn't finished, but it gets in stages. When we finished filming, we all went to the pub for a drink to celebrate, and then obviously after post production, when we completed post, we did a cast and crew screening to celebrate, and that was really nice. Just getting the cast and crew back together and a few extra people who had helped out along the way, and giving them like a nice private screening, and having a couple of drinks afterwards to celebrate, a bit of food, everything. So that was very rewarding. And when you're in that moment, it really gives you a chance just to live in the moment and enjoy it and realize what you've accomplished.
No, it was I'll say I was there at that event, and it was really, really good. It was so good. And I realised that I have a naturally sarcastic voice, so I don't mean that to come out sarcastic, but I drove 4.5 hours down to see it and hang out, and I think it was just really, I think it's rewarding for me to see something that you've produced put together in a cinema with all these people, and just kind of see the end product and see it all put together as it's meant to be seen. And yeah, I was proud of you, man. That was really, really cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, and that's one of the things that makes it all worth it. Is like I said, there were a few moments where I wasn't sure if it was going to be finished. But then, like you said, when you get up on the big screen like that and everything, and you realise like it was all worth it the whole time. Every time you got stuck at an obstacle, once you find a way through, and yeah, you get to that moment where you can put it up on the big screen and you can just show people this is what I've done. I think that's really, a really kind of self-rewarding moment in itself that really motivates you as well to get on with the next project.
Absolutely. We'll jump into the quickfire round now. So we have 10 questions for you, which you have to try and answer as fast as you can. Otherwise, I delete half the interview.
Oh, pressure's on. Right.
Are you ready for this?
I think so.
Fantastic. Okay. Who's your favourite Power Ranger?
The green one from the original. Tommy.
Wow, you even know their name. Fantastic. Who's the favourite actor you've worked with?
Oh, probably Billy Boyd.
What do you do to celebrate your... Oh, damn it. I doubled up on Harley's question. What do you do to celebrate your wins?
Same as before.
That's fine. Preferred meal of choice in a restaurant?
Oh, probably steak.
What's your favourite Pokemon game?
Oh, that's a tough one. You put that in on purpose, didn't you?
Yep.
Pokemon Soul Silver.
What's your star sign?
Taurus.
When you get lightheaded, who do you blame?
Life.
How many Maltesers can you fit in your mouth?
I'm going to go with 11.
If you could spend 10 days in one destination with unlimited cash, where would it be?
Vegas. Think of the possibilities.
Wow. What's your preferred toast topping?
Jam.
Fantastic. That's 10 questions.
Nailed it. First try.
That was beautiful. I did not realise I doubled up a question. I'm sorry, listeners. That's what you get for transferring over the questions from Patreon before you make the quick fire round. Little insight behind the scenes. But before we sign off for this show, I just want to ask, where can our listeners find out more about yourself and your work?
At the moment, there's not too much online, but after Blood on the Road's been through the film festival circuit, it will be up on Vimeo. I'm planning to make that free to watch for everybody. And that will be the same for Whiskey Tears. However, Whiskey Tears will be another year or so from there. And the other stories, we've got In a Flash and One Last Drink. Those are the 2 stories we've done so far. Mm-hmm. So they can listen out on your podcast. And at the moment, that is currently it. But I'm hoping over the next couple of years, there's going to be more and more stuff coming out, probably on Vimeo. And hopefully, touch wood, get some stuff out on DVD.
Perfect. That'll be exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait. See what the future holds. It's all going to be... Yeah, that's the thing. You just got to keep looking up and keep looking forward.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time, Jon. I do appreciate it. It's great having you on the show at last.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, it's been great. Thank you for having me.
That's cool. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we will see you next week.
See you later.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Great Writers Share podcast. Next week, we'll be joined by Lit RPG King and Mountaindale Press CEO Dakota Kraut, discussing his transition from author to publisher and how he's dominating the Lit RPG charts. Don't forget you can get early access to every episode of the Great Writers Share podcast and the chance to ask upcoming guests any of your questions just by becoming a patron of the show. All you need to do is visit www.patreon.com/greatwritersshare and support the show for as little as $1 a month. One more time, that's www.patreon.com/greatwritersshare. Until next time.